Hello, and welcome to the Deal Breakdown, Episode 6. I'm Wesley with Mayton Real Estate, your buyer specialist.
And my name is Fong Tran of Tran Property Group. I'm your seller specialist.
And together we are
the Deal
the
Breakdown.
Deal Breakdown. You know what? We're going to go with that one. We've taken a few takes. Obviously, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see that Fong is not sitting across from me. Obviously, schedules can get busy. And so we wanted to test out the remote capabilities of the software we use. So we have Fong calling in remote.
Yeah, I'm the guinea pig, guys.
The guinea pig. And episode 6 is, again, the first time we are doing our new format with our 3-part packages of episodes. The third episode, each 3, is going to be freeform, where we talk about whatever's on our mind. We bring up social media posts or just some random things that we see, and we're going to talk about it. And we actually have the capability to show you and play the audio for you on the podcast or on YouTube. So we're going to be doing that. Fong, any thoughts? Freeform?
I like it. I like the freeform. It's just going to be able to us have, friendly banter about real estate. Not necessarily
100%.
a specific outline or metric that we have to follow, but just masterminding.
Exactly. And some things we have shared with each other of what we're going to talk about, and some things we've kept secret. I have, at least. So let's just hop on in. I want to talk about, I think a fun subject to talk about, and that's this thing about AI. We talked about it, right? We talked about it. We kind of predicted it. And looky here, everybody, it's happening. And apparently an AI real estate agent in Portugal sold $100 million of real estate in a year. And I'm going to bring that up on screen just for reference. And Fong, talk about it while I'm bringing it up on screen.
Yeah, I think, in today's day and age, we're all busy people. Work encompasses a large part of our day to day. And so it makes sense with AI being so revolutionary that it's even going into the real estate sector. And so I think with it being so easy for someone to just click a button and then they send you some 3D tour or potential video that was already recorded. If they want to accept it, they buy it. And then the AI agent, I'm sure there's help by some human side of it. They can get to the closing table. And I mean, what'd you say? Portugal? So it's in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
They sold $100 million worth of real estate. That is so much.
It's insane. We're going to watch this guy talk about it. Fong, you know this guy?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So hopefully everybody can see and hear this. And we're just going to hear his thoughts really quick, just for a few seconds.
First ever AI real estate agent generates $100 million in sales in Portugal. AI is already starting to replace real estate agents, and they're still in denial. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. 800,000 real estate agents are going to disappear from the United States in the next 24 to 36 months because of things like this.
Okay. So obviously, he is predicting we're going to see a lot of people leave in the next 2 to 3 years. 800,000 real estate agents.
I would disagree. I feel like agents will leave the business, but I feel like with the barrier of entry being so low, there'll always be a new batch, a new influx of agents coming in. I mean, will we see a large attrition? I'm sure. But I don't think it's going to be that astounding that this real estate coach makes it out to be.
And just for reference for everybody, there are 3 million active licensees in the United States of America. That's quite a bit. Now, active licensees doesn't necessarily mean full-time agents or people producing. It could be, again, what we talked about in episode 1, part-time people or people that do a sale every other year with their friend or family member. Now, obviously, if there's AI coming in, maybe those are probably going to be the first ones to get pushed out, I would assume, just because it's AI. It's just taken over. I'm shocked. 100 million. I'm wondering where this AI actually added in to the process. Was he just calling? Was it just calling?
Don't give it a human aspect, man. I don't want Terminator to happen.
Nobody wants Terminator. We're moving towards it.
Yeah, it'd be curious to see it. Like, I didn't look into it too much, but it'd be really cool to see, like, what was the process like for a consumer to be working with pretty much a robot, getting to the closing table. It'd be interesting to just figure out how they did it.
And I doubt it was a robot actually opening up the house. I don't think that we have robots of that capability. Not in the U.S. Doubt it in Portugal. I'm sure it was more
Maybe in
like
China.
the AI. I think it was more just the AI calling leads, maybe converting the leads to an appointment, then having a showing assistant go
Potentially.
out and show the home. Or if it's a listing, calling, doing a comparative market analysis for a client, and then just sending paperwork. Because it could all be digital, right?
Right. What's your
But
take on him saying that, like, if you're not essentially keeping up with the trend of utilizing AI in your business, then you're eventually going to be, pushed out. It's like Sears or like an old folk that typically works in a factory can't get really like an office job. What do you think of that?
yeah, that's a good question. So I'll even go a little bit more close to home with this and say that one of the biggest changes in real estate in the recent past was moving paperwork, right? Moving paperwork from having to be in person, pen and paper, to digitally signing things through DigiSign, through DocuSign, right? And I can't even imagine doing that right now, right?
Oh, it'd be
There's certain
chaos.
things
So much
signing in
driving.
person. Yeah, there's certain things driving in person makes sense for, but if we need an addendum signed, what am I
Yeah.
going to drive out to them, get initials, and then you have to figure out what time they're available, what time you're available? It would hamper your production
I
because of
think
time efficiency.
I could be wrong, but I think back then, whenever it was that during that era of real estate, I think a lot of negotiation and communication was done through the phone. And once it was done through the phone, then you'd put on paper rather than what I see pretty often nowadays is like whenever you're negotiating like a repair inspection, it's really you're gonna pick a certain set of repairs and then you're gonna push it via email and figure
Sure.
out and wait until what the response is.
Yeah. No, for sure. We operate digitally a lot. Obviously the phone call is always important, probably will always be important, but text message, email, and then digitally signing things is such a big thing that we do. And I'm sure it's just like that. With if you don't
Yeah.
use digital paperwork and signatures, you're just not going to produce as much as those that are doing it. And I'm sure it's the same as AI. If you're not using AI, you're not going to produce as much as the people using AI,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
I'm a
you're just
person.
gonna be swept. Yeah, you're just gonna be swept. I mean, AI is scary to a degree, but there's a lot of benefits in terms of efficiency.
I'm
I
sure you're going
know.
to get left behind. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know you use AI. I use AI to even drop emails, text messages to clients. Maybe even writing print for marketing. I mean, it's being widely used. So, like you said, you'll get left behind, and so I do
Get
believe
left
that.
behind. Yeah, even think just like practically. Like I'm a human being. I take lunch breaks. I go to the gym for an hour. I want to not be on my phone at 8 p.m. AI doesn't care. And maybe you have a client that works graveyard shifts. They want to talk late at
Yeah.
night or they want to talk early in the morning.
Yeah,
Wow,
and that's
great.
what this AI was really pushing. Like they can talk to you at any time of the day. And
Any
so
time of day and multiple people at a time.
and so the customer service aspect, I'm sure was like top notch, but maybe the rapport relationship building, which is what we know in terms of agents, I think that's where it lacked. But I mean, it'll be crazy to see where it ends up because I mean, this is only to get better and better. And so I guess the question I would probably ask ourselves is, are we screwed over a job in like the next couple decades?
Maybe, right? I
It's tough to
think
say, right?
it's tough to say. There's always, extrapolate out into the future. Like
Yeah.
just get out there in your mind space. Enter into the imagination copter with me
Yeah.
here.
Okay.
It's
All
going,
right.
okay?
I'll put in my tinfoil hat.
Imagine decades later where we're at with AI, with technology.
Oh, I know, it's crazy. Like the internet was just created like over a couple decades ago, early
Yeah.
2000s.
Within our
Like,
lifetime.
yeah. So, which is actually crazy to think. Like we were in the age of the internet, which has just boomed, created a
Yeah.
revolution. Yeah, kind of crazy to think about.
Well,
But yeah,
seriously,
we're on
imagine,
status.
we're on status. But imagine, right? We're in this imagination copter, you and I. We get teleported 50, years into the future, I can't even imagine the type of technology, unless we blow ourselves up, that's going to be around. Who has a job, right? And who's just being taken care of by the tech that we have,
Yeah.
right? Do you even need jobs?
Right? Or are we
You-
just all artificial now? We're in
Yeah. Well, why do we have money, right? Think about why we have money. We have money so that
control.
there's incentive for someone to do something. Okay. So whether that's your time, your expertise, your skills, your hard labor, you get paid. You go to work thinking, I'm going to get paid money so that I could go buy food to not die. I could buy a house to not freeze in the weather. So if that's all taken care of, you got AI and robots doing all the farms, making all the food, doing all the service industry.
Yeah, I
What are you
saw
doing?
like on Instagram that I think it was part of like Alibaba.
Alibaba.
They created the first dark factory. And this dark factory, what that means is all the lights are
lights.
off, no lights. It's all ran by machines. And so think of like an Amazon warehouse where there's people packaging things and moving packages to certain trucks or whatever to deliver. In China, they have a dark factory that these robotic arms are just grabbing things and sorting things by itself. And I saw the video and I was like, this is absolutely insane because
Makes sense.
that will eventually move into the US because Amazon
sure.
Amazon was created from Alibaba.
There's always going to be, and I don't want to just make this podcast about this subject. So I'll probably have my couple last thoughts here and I'll hear yours. First thing is it's inevitably coming. Okay. Imagine back. There was no self-checkout at Target, at Fred Meyer, at wherever you shop. There was no self-checkout, right? And now there's self-checkout. People lost jobs because of that, right? It's just how it is. Some people, guys, I do it. I have my AirPods in. I walk into New Seasons. I grab some food. If I got a couple things, I'm going to scan, pay, leave. I'm not going to sit there
And banter.
and banter. I talked to enough people, and that was growing pains, and there people were upset.
Yeah.
It's going to be the same thing. Warehouse jobs are going to go first, like you said, and then people are just going to get used to it. The next thing I'll say is AI is coming and it's coming rapidly. I had my parents here. They listen every time. Shout out mom and dad.
Shout out
I was
Albert
telling
and
them,
never mind. Keep
Albert and Laura, close.
Oh, Laura. Thank you.
The ChatGPT 3.5 is likened to an elementary school student that can look up an answer in a book. GPT-4 was likened to a college student that can kind of reason a little bit and kind of figure out like what the most favorable option would be based on data, right? So, y'all, that was that fast.
Yeah.
Let's just imagine where are we going next, right? In the next couple of years.
It's coming hard, it's coming fast, as sexual as that sounds, but it's I think we're all going to be into a little bit of a rude awakening, especially in the job sectors like print, marketing, data, like even accounting, where you can just pull vast amounts of like data sets, like numbers. You have AI to do it now. And so I think to wrap this up, my last little comments is like, I think AI is a tremendous thing for real estate. It's scary because obviously it could risk our jobs, especially reading that AI Portugal agent sold $100 million in sales, and it's coming. It's coming, whether we like it or not. I think to end it, we just have to be adaptable. I mean, as any entrepreneur like you and I, you just have to adapt to what's happening, and that's the best we can do.
Or you get left behind, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. So on to the next subject. I got another one if you don't have one. Do you got one?
I mean, is it the Redfin one?
Oh, let's definitely talk about that.
Yeah.
It's freeform, man. Bring up whatever you want. But God.
Yeah. I woke up on, what was it, Monday? So, yeah, Monday the 10th. And I just, everywhere on social media, CNBC, that Rocket, which is like a large online mortgage broker, purchased Redfin, which is almost like a Zillow. It's pretty much the second largest online brokerage. They have their own agents. They have associate agents. They have their own title company. The only thing they essentially didn't have was a lender. And Rocket Mortgage purchased Redfin for $1.7 billion in stock. So it's not like it's cash, but still it's a pretty big news because Redfin has has been such a competitor to Zillow, and seeing it being bought rather than Redfin buying Rocket is kind of interesting to see. I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, it makes sense for Rocket. At my at the Glover Summit I went to, they had like a big Rocket mortgage guy there. I can't remember. He's VP of something, and he got up there and he talked about like kind of where they were looking to go for the year, and they are looking to expand big. So obviously, he didn't talk about Redfin. I'm sure that was out of his pay grade, but yeah, Redfin purchasing, or sorry, Rocket purchasing Redfin. I think you mentioned it. So the three big search engines for real estate, obviously, number one is Zillow. Absolutely. Number 2 and 3 are Realtor.com and Redfin. I don't know which one's more popular. It could honestly be Redfin.
I think Redfin would be the second, other than
That is
Realtor.com.
wild.
Yeah.
That is wild.
I think Redfin just is more of a second to Zillow because they have in-house like brokers, they have agents, they have competitors, rather than Realtor.com just sells leads.
Yeah. Realtor.com's also linked up to the MLS, I'm fairly certain.
Yeah, they are.
Okay. So Redfin is its own company, right? And like you said, they have agents, they have people on staff that can sell your home or be your buyer's agent. So when you go on to Redfin, okay, and you look at a home and you say, I want to tour this home, or I want to have answers to questions on this home. If you're on Redfin.com, you get a Redfin agent. If you're on Zillow, you're going to get an agent that purchased you as a lead. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the big difference. It's
Zillow,
all in house.
Premier or Flex agent, but they don't work for Zillow itself, like you said. I actually purchased my first property with Redfin, and so the transaction itself, I mean, I was new. I wasn't even in real estate. Like you said, I clicked the button. I wanted to tour a property. I toured it, and I was like, okay, let's move forward. But during the whole time, he didn't really go over like the buying process. He didn't tell me how to do inspections. He didn't tell me what to expect. Whenever it came in negotiations, I had to negotiate myself or pick what I wanted. It was not necessarily him being the advocate, if that makes any sense. And the transaction itself was extremely seamless. Don't get me wrong, but it just felt like I was talking to a person that didn't care. There was a human on the other side. And I think agents there, they don't get paid like a full commission. I think they're W-2 with bonuses. And in order to get bonuses, you have to hit a certain amount of money or sales. I don't know exactly, but I'd say, I mean, to end on that is the transaction was seamless. I think if for my first purchase, I should have just gone through like a traditional means. At the time, I didn't know better.
It makes sense. And that's just, by the way, for people that don't know about Redfin, so Redfin agents do make salary, okay? So they're not just commission based. So for them, they don't care as much if they close. They do make money on that, but they certainly don't care as much as necessarily Fongarai. To get back to it, and I appreciate that story. It gives insight for sure. That's what I've heard, by the way, with Redfin. It's a discount brokerage, okay? You get charged very little to sell your house with Redfin. Now, you get very little in return. So Redfin, though, keeps everything in-house. Agents, all in-house. Now, Rocket Mortgage, owning it, they're going to keep all that lending in-house too, right? They're going to just say, hey, you like this house? Great. Are you pre-approved? Oh, no? Okay, here's Rocket Mortgage. Yeah. Now, Zillow, on the other hand, they work with a lot of other agents and different brokerages, right? I know a lot of brokerages here in Portland work with Zillow. They purchase Zillow leads. And I know Zillow works with a lot of lenders in the same way. So they're very brokerage agnostic, okay? Whereas Redfin's Redfin. That's it.
Yeah, one-stop shop type of thing, especially with Rocket. Shop.
I think it's also so smart because Redfin is so internet-based. It's one of the largest search engines. It's amazing. It's a tech company.
It's considered a tech company.
Same with Rocket.
Yeah. What I didn't realize, I did. Whenever I got these news, I was like, why isn't the other way around? Why isn't Redfin buying Rocket? But then I started looking into the financials. Apparently, Redfin hasn't really done. They've been struggling with a lot of financial losses. Then they had internal layoffs. At the peak, since they're openly traded company at their peak, they ended up losing about like 65% of their stock value. And so if they had sold back in 2021, which obviously it makes sense because that was the peak of the housing market, And so it was pretty interesting to see that Redfin, being the second best online search engine for real estate, ended up getting bought out.
And something to think about is, and I always say this, I learned this from my father, is a saying is, if I question something like the decision of Rocket Mortgage, why would you buy Redfin? I always say there's someone much smarter than me being paid much more than me to figure out if that's a good decision. And I know that for a fact. And what that tells you listening to the podcast is that Rocket Mortgage, the biggest lending agency in the country, okay, thinks that Redfin is a good play because the housing market will come back. That's all that means, okay?
Yeah,
They
for sure.
believe that they're going to make their money back and more. Hey, buy the dip, right?
Yeah,
But always buy the
exactly.
dip.
Yeah, I mean,
And Rocket Mortgage is buying the dip.
yeah, especially with the stock value coming down like 65% since 21. I mean, I think
Yeah.
this puts a lot of pressure and competitive juices to Zillow, because Zillow does have
Oh yeah, for sure.
they do its own in-house loans too. I think they're also Seattle based as well. And then another big online search website for real estate. I'm sure if you watched the Super Bowl, you saw all those commercials, but Homes.com. And so
Homes.com.
Homes.com is starting to slowly trickle its way up, going head to head into Realtor.com as well. And so it's going to be interesting to see what this tech real estate is, what's going to happen.
Yeah. Don't use Rocket Mortgage. Use whoever you want.
Yeah.
However, as your buyer specialist, I'm going to give you a little tidbit because we're here for advice. Rocket Mortgage. Oh, let me give you an analogy. What bank do you bank with?
On Point, it's a local credit union.
Okay, it's a credit union. Fun fact, do you know the difference between a credit union and a bank?
To be honest, no. I just know they typically give you favorable rates and terms. They're a lot more flexible in terms of requirements, potentially to buy a home or purchase a car loan or even invest within the company.
Yep. I'll make it basic for you. Banks are for-profit organizations. Credit unions are non-profit organizations, member owned. They're local. Okay. That's a big difference. This is probably a big reason why. Now, that's great. I know a lot of people, you bank with Wells Fargo, you bank with Chase, you bank with whomever. I use an online bank. Why do you think I use an online bank, Fong?
Probably. Why would Wesley call bank?
Why would I use an online bank? If you don't get it in 5 seconds, I'm going to tell you.
I don't know, to be honest.
High yield.
Oh, like a high yield savings account.
Yield savings account.
Yeah.
The reason is because they don't have overhead like these banks do, because they're all online. Now, customer service is horrifying, but high yield. Now, Rocket Mortgage, I'm sure it's the same way. It's all online.
Yeah.
Great. So they're probably going to offer you something that sounds really good, maybe even too good to be true.
Yeah, to get you inside the door. That's essentially it.
That's it. And I will say, I've worked with Rocket Mortgage before. It's dreadful. It's dreadful. And the reason it's dreadful is because it is a company through and through. 9 to 5, baby. If I'm trying to call the lender on Saturday at noon,
they're not picking up.
Good luck.
Yeah, they're not picking up. Yeah. And that's why, even, as a seller specialist, if I'm in a multiple offer situation and I see a Rocket Mortgage versus like a Mutual of Omaha or Vision Mortgage or whatever, they're local, I'm going to probably not necessarily persuade, but be like, hey, I recommend going local, depending on other terms, of course, going local because of the communication aspect, which is so important within a transaction.
It's so important. Yeah, I highly recommend what Fong just said. Buyer or seller, having an actual person, an actual mortgage broker, this is their lifeblood. It just makes more sense to go with them because they care a little bit more about getting it closed and getting the deal together. And Rocket Mortgage, honestly, you're a number and they could give a crap about you.
I've never, I'm working with buyers now and in the past as well. There's never been a transaction that I successfully closed with an online bank.
It's horrifying.
Yeah, it's just bad. But yeah, excuse me, to end on this, I don't think it's going to affect you and I too much because this is more of like a large corporation. I think at the end of the day, we're still going to sling houses and it's not going to really affect us too much, but I could be wrong. I don't know.
Well, here's the thing. I know a lot of people drink Bud Light. All right. I Bud Light or Coors Light, I don't know, might be the
Coors Light.
most popular beer. Okay, and that's like a standard basic thing. Rocket Mortgage and Redfin is the Bud Light of real estate. If you want a craft beer,
Yeah.
we're
There you
the
go.
craft beer.
Yeah, you're gonna come to Portland and go to any of the tap houses.
Bud Light is cheaper than a Deschutes beer. It just is.
Yeah,
But
it's a
one's
very
better than the other. One you're going to enjoy more.
good analogy, honestly.
That's my take. Let's move on.
Sorry, man.
Okay.
All right, Wes, what do you got for me, man?
So, I'm going to have a little fun. Does this affect us at all? No, but it's fun. Do you know what's happening with the Japanese real estate market in Japan?
I don't know it. I mean, I know it's cheap.
Okay.
I think I'm probably wrong. I have no idea. I really don't know jack shit about it.
You're not far off. If none of you know, I am a nerd for all things Japanese. I was born in the wrong place. Let's just say that.
Albert and Laura.
Sorry, Albert and Laura. Love you, but we should have been born in Japan. No, I'm kidding. I love all things Japanese. Anime, samurai culture. Dude, you put me on some Toshiro Mifune movies. For all of you listening, if you know what that is, you're awesome. I'm there. Okay. No, well, you're not awesome. So, in Japan, they have a very old population. I'm sure you knew that.
I did. I've heard about that. Okay. Yeah.
The birth rate's really low. I don't want to go into why. It's very old generation of living. Now, in Japan, you really have big cities, right? Tokyo, Osaka, Kyoto, like these big cities. Tokyo is the largest metropolitan area in the entire world, almost 40 million strong. So it's a lot. And the reason there's a big reason for that, and that's because people are moving from the countryside into the cities. Very similar to like China, right? A lot of people are moving from the countryside, the mass migration to these giant cities. We do have a little bit of a, kind of difference right now because the housing prices here, we're kind of seeing the mass exodus like we talked about before away from the city center. But in Japan, it's very different. So
because they want to be closer to like healthcare, amenities, jobs, stuff like that. Is that why?
Correct. Jobs, amenities, culture. It's very different because there's in the countryside, you don't really have the amenities to really. It's like jobs, right? Like, you ever driven through a town in the United States that's a town of 200 people?
Oh yeah,
you don't got a lot of jobs
Texas.
there.
Yeah, I don't have nothing. No healthcare. I mean,
you gotta drive.
Closest healthcare is major cities, so it makes sense.
Totally. And plus, if you live close by, I mean, their subway system is unreal how good it is. Their public transportation. So you could live, somewhat near Tokyo and pop in there, and that's your commute. It's clean. It's amazing. But on to the real estate. So aging population. And so there's a lot of less young people. And these young people are moving to the cities. So you find a lot of these abandoned homes. And not just in the countryside. There are abandoned homes in Tokyo or in Kyoto, like these big cities, okay?
It's being sold for like $1, right? Like
you're getting there. So you've probably seen this on social media, and basically you can find these homes for extremely cheap. Extremely cheap. It's because, and I'm sure you've seen the memes of like, you could live in this city in Italy and the Italian government will pay you. Okay.
Yeah.
The reason they do that is because they're trying to revitalize these areas that have seen a huge population decline. The government's like, hey, come on over, buy this house for next to nothing. Okay.
How good of an investment is that though? Like it's hard to even determine unless you're just doing it for nostalgic. Hey, I own a property in Japan that we can visit. I feel like I would. If it's $1, build it up. Just build it up and then just have it like a vacation home.
That's sick, just actually. It. And so I'm going to show you a video. It's a guy I follow. He's definitely a real estate agent or at least an investor in the Japan space. So I'm going to show you a video. He has a video on how foreigners can buy houses as well. But I'm just going to use an example, okay?
Okay.
This house has next to nothing in value, but it looks perfectly fine from the outside, right? I mean, take a look at the inside too. It looks like a decent used house. This 3-story single-family house was built in 1984, and it's a 20-minute walk from Daigo Station. From there, it's only a 30-minute train ride to Kyoto Station. It has 93 square meters of land with a building space of 154 square meters. It even comes with enough space to park 2 cars. So why in the world is this house almost free? This might be a culture shock for a lot of people, but older Japanese houses have very little value. This one is no exception. So the value lays in the land. So the owner didn't think the structure of this house had much value, so they decided to sell the land. So the seller is pretty much just selling the land, but the almost free house happens to come with the transaction. And the seller is selling the 93 square meters of land in the prime location for 16.4 million yen, or $109,000. Still, it sounds like a pretty good deal, especially if you love Kyoto. Would you buy a house like this in Kyoto? Let me know in the comments.
Okay.
Comments.
Okay.
Be curious
So-
to see like what's like how what the population is like in that area. Like, is this just completely dead, or is it like totally slowly getting better? Because
Well,
that's
what
where
the
I see the
Japanese
investment
government's
purposes.
doing, right? Is they're trying to pull people back to these areas. And that was an example. That was just one video I picked from this guy's feed, right? He has a bunch of different videos where houses are next to nothing. 109,000. I've seen him post houses for $15,000. Cheap. Super cheap. And what I'm seeing a lot of foreigners to Japan are going in and they're remodeling these homes and either
Interesting.
living there part-time or they're renting it out on Airbnb. So
Ooh,
it's-
Airbnb. Interesting. Huh, you tip
Yeah, I
among
know.
others, man.
I
This is
figured I
actually-
would.
Yeah, this is fascinating, actually.
and there's an actual process to doing this as a foreigner, and they're trying to get people to buy these abandoned houses because sometimes it's just easier to abandon the house and move to Tokyo. Or it's an aging community. A lot of people aren't having kids. You might not have someone to pass this along to. And so because of the decline in population, a lot of these houses just don't have owners. It is owned by the government because they don't have anybody to pass it on to.
It's interesting.
So I'm seeing a lot of people invest. I've talked
maybe-
about it.
Huh.
I've thought
Fascinating.
about it.
Yeah, I mean, because flying to Japan, that's a tax write-off because you're flying for real estate purposes, and so you could take the trip as a vacation, but 50% of the time you have to obviously deal in real estate. Fascinating.
Interesting. And also
So-
something to really think about. Go for it. I was going to kind of tangent.
I was just gonna say, I feel like we should look into this more.
Guys, I
100
did this to find an investment partner. No, something he said that I think is very interesting, and that's actually the reason I brought this video up that I saw. Because again, I think it's interesting, the cheap houses, how cheap you could get it. Notice how he said people in Japan find no value in older homes. 1984 build.
Yeah, that ain't old.
Welcome to the Portland metro area, everybody. I am sitting in a 1930s built house.
My house is 1951.
So think
I
about
think
that.
The oldest house I've sold, North Portland, I think it was like 1923.
Yep. Oh, I've sold older.
Yeah.
Pushover.
Century, a
1909, baby.
Century. That's crazy, man.
1883. Sold a home 1883.
It's still standing. Jesus Christ.
It's so that's just it, right? Is you think about it, and that's wild to me that they
Yeah.
find no value. It's just in the land. And what that tells me is Japan is upgrading all of their infrastructure, right? As fast and as possible, like as fast as they can.
Makes sense. I mean, you've been to Japan, right?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, and it makes sense. I've seen videos of Japan. Their technology is like 10 times more ahead than here in the US.
Yeah.
So it makes sense, especially as older population. They don't want to deal with repairs of a 1980s house. They'd rather have like buttons that open windows and do whatever, all gizmo gadgets and
Yeah.
Terminator shit.
I think it's also something to say that you look at these traditional homes in Japan. It's very different, right? They're not Americanized, modernized, westernized, as you will. They have like the mats on the ground. You sleep in a basically a futon on the ground. So it's very different living than that modern Western vibe, right? I think the big thing to think about is the lack of new construction here in America, right? We don't really have that in spades here. We have a lack of it because they all went bankrupt in 2008 and they've been catching up, and COVID hit. And now, guys, guess where all the lumber comes from for new construction? Canada. Uh-oh.
Yeah, tariffs, baby.
There it is.
Yeah, I mean the whole U.S. is undersupplied in new construction. I mean, I think a big part of it, ever since COVID, is just high construction costs. And so in order for a builder to make, a decent profit to pay not only themselves but all the employees, I'm seeing a lot of builders just focus on luxury because the margins are bigger versus, spending $230,000 for a brand new 3-bed 2-bath, but you can only sell it for like 450.
Yeah.
There's just not a lot of margins.
Yeah. Hey, I think it's interesting just to look at other countries, seeing what they do. Obviously, we mentioned Portugal today, so thought I'd bring up Japan as well. Hey, let's go invest in Japan. Why not?
Dude, you tickled my feathers. Like, that's kind of crazy, especially if there's incentives that Japan is enacting for foreigners like you and I to go do this to revitalize the area. I mean, that's saying something. The government wants to do that.
And think about it. I mean, I think it's smart on their part because let's say we bought that house for $109,000, right? You come in, maybe you put $50K to $100K of work into that home to modernize it, make it look good, and then you rent it out. You've now driven up the value of that home.
Appreciation, yeah.
In that area, and that was foreign dollars that went into Japan construction workers. Just saying, it's smart. I think it's great.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, on to the next. All right, last one here. Fong, do you know the name of the guy that sued the National Association of Realtors and made our life hell?
His specific name? No, I have no idea.
You should know this guy because screw this guy. That's right. You heard me. John Sitzer. I don't like you. John Sitzer successfully sued the National Association of Realtors for over $400 million in a settlement. Well, do you know what John Sitzer has right now?
He has a real estate company, right?
I'm bringing it up on screen for you.
And he does something with...
It's called Landian. Landian is a startup. Here's how it works. You import a listing, copy and paste any listing link, or type the address of a home you want to buy. Click the tour or offer button. Set your terms. Get an agent. Finalize and save. Okay? So the guy that sued the National Association of Realtors
started a company.
Created a startup. Are you ready for this? Where you could buy a home, go through that process for $49.
What the hell? How's that even possible?
Takes you through the whole process. So you type in a listing, okay? You're like, I want to tour that listing. Then a showing agent, assistant gets out there and shows you the home, okay? Then on their website, you set the terms, and then paperwork is drafted up. And then you send it in an offer.
That's it? How does the agent get paid?
They're on salary.
I see.
So basically,
it cuts people like us.
The guy that sued, that basically made it to where buyer's agent's commission is not set from the listing agent anymore, right? Is not set in that. It's not on the MLS anymore. You have to offer, in your offer, you have to negotiate for your commission.
More paperwork, really.
What a conflict of interest.
Yeah, he's a piece of crap.
What a guy.
He used his proceeds to create a startup to definitely take away the middleman like us. $49 though. Why? That's so cheap.
It's his call. It's ridiculous. Crazy. Yeah. It's something that is even to the crazier side of Redfin of how cheap their commissions are. It's even more. $49. Who's gonna care about you for $49?
Nobody.
Honestly. So it's basically a for sale by owner, except you're a buyer. It's a buy on your own. We're just going to do your paperwork for you. Get you into that listing.
It's almost like a flat fee listing, but for a buyer.
For a buyer. $49, you use our software. You get an offer in on a home. I don't even know how it works in escrow. I don't even know how it works with negotiations. They
That's gonna be
probably
interesting.
upcharge you if you go see more homes. They probably upcharge you if you're sending out offers or something, or hey, if you
Right.
want us to do this for your inspection, let us know.
It's almost,
$10.
it's going to be like think of TurboTax,
There you
where
go.
there's different there. If you want more of a professional, maybe you want to talk to an agent, you're going to have to spend an additional amount of money. And so it's going to be interesting because TurboTax is obviously an extremely powerful accounting software.
And I'm sure CPAs, right? CPA? Yeah. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
See, they're still around, right? TurboTax
100%.
exists. I know you don't use TurboTax, right? You have an accountant. Yeah.
Right.
And so, again, I don't think the real estate agent's going to go away because of this $49 thing at all. My problem is this guy making this after he sued. What came first, chicken or the egg here? Because if this was his whole plan, screw you, John. If this wasn't your plan and you're just like, you know what, now that I got him, I'm going to double
Let's get him
down.
again. Let's get him again.
Again, John, screw you, man. So all in all, use an agent that's actually going to give a shit. But hey, hopefully y'all like the free form. We talked about a lot of stuff, little bits and pieces here. We're going to probably change it up, something to announce. And I think that this kind of showed us that we can do remote. We also wanted to test this out so that we could have a guest on for episode 10.
Yeah. About
Episode
4
6.
episodes.
4 episodes. We're going to have a guest on. We'll keep that close to our hip. Probably announce it in the next coming weeks. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed it. And this is Wesley, your buyer specialist, signing off.
And this is Fong Tran, your seller specialist, also signing off. See you guys next
Have a
time.
good day.